This morning we're going to continue this series of stories. We're in Genesis chapter 27, beginning with verse 1, on Jacob being blessed by his father Isaac. And it begins with, Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see. He called for Esau, his oldest son, and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out into the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like, and bring it to me to eat so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies.' Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, 'But my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him, and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing.' His mother said to him, 'My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me.' So he went and got them, brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. She then handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, 'My father.' 'Yes, my son,' he answered. 'Who is it?' Jacob said to his father, 'I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing.'" Let us pray. Lord, we are thankful for this word this morning. Your word is meant to cut through the very marrow of our bones, designed to change us, to transform us. So I'm asking this morning, Lord, that your word does transform us. Help us to become more like Christ as we learn from your word. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
How far would you go to get something you really want? Would you deceive someone? Would you lie? Would you cheat? Would you steal? What would you do if there's something you wanted so badly that you were just about willing to do anything to get it? And we don't see blessing that way. It doesn't fall in that category in our culture. But it did and it still does today in the Jewish culture. Blessing is very, very important to that culture. And I know, here's the other thing, is God's timing comes into this too. And I know when when God put on my call, God put the call in my heart to go to the mission field, I wanted to go right then. Let's go. It's, and you get excited and you want to do it right then. It was nearly 7 years later before we actually went. But the call did not go away. God's promise does not go away with time. And sometimes we feel like we've got to take matters into our own hands and to make it happen. Because we don't understand God's timing. And when we wait on God, the results are always better than when we circumvent God and try and take matters into our own hands. So Mom hatches a plan. Understand, Esau was Isaac's favorite. Jacob was Rebekah's favorite. And so she's looking out after him. But also Esau was the firstborn. And so normally that's the one that gets a blessing. Although if we see previously, Esau gave his birthright up as well, didn't he, to Jacob? So mom hatches a plan to trick her husband into blessing Jacob and not Esau. She took matters into her own hands, even though she was already told Jacob was going to be a leader. God already told her. Where did he tell her? Genesis 25:23. The Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will what? Will serve the younger. God's promise already there. She didn't have to do anything. She didn't have to take matters in her own hands. It was going to happen because God promised it. God said it was going to happen, right? So here's a question. Jacob, is he worried about doing what is right? Or is he worried about getting caught? How many times have you gotten pulled over for speeding? And the first thought is, you're upset because you got caught. Not because you were speeding, but you got caught. And this is what I think is going through Jacob's mind is, okay, Mom, I understand what you want to do, but if Dad catches on, I'm going to be cursed as a result of this. Does the end justify the means? Jacob got blessed. That was what God's promise was. I keep cutting out. Jacob got blessed. That's what God's promise was. But was it justified in doing what they did? I think sometimes if we're afraid that we might get caught doing something, maybe it's something we shouldn't do. It's better we don't do it. Here's our conscience telling us, maybe this is not such a good idea. I'm telling you right now, this deceit cost Jacob. He got the blessing, but he paid a price. He paid a price. He never was able to see his mother again. And they were close. His brother now wants to kill him. So he has to flee. He has to leave. And what happens? Oh, and then his uncle deceives him. You know, it's like, oh, it goes around. How did his uncle deceive him? Because he went to live with his uncle and wanted to marry the youngest daughter, right? Works for him for 7 years. And his uncle deceives him and gives him his older daughter. He said, okay, work for me another 7 years and then you can have the younger one too. So what goes around comes around, maybe? Family torn by strife. Esau becomes the founder of an enemy nation, and when he finds out that his dad does not want him to marry any of the local women, what's he go do? He goes out and marries the local women. Jacob's exiled by the family. And here's the thing. God had a plan. And they circumvented his plan. They were not willing to wait on God's timing. I used to always think that, we always have to wait on God's timing. And oftentimes, and many times in my life, I had to wait. Other times, things happen really fast. I don't know if that's happened to you. So it's not always waiting. Sometimes God can clear obstacles really fast, like us going to the mission field. It was amazing how quickly he cleared obstacles for us to go, because that was part of his plan. But other times he may cause us to wait. How old do you think Esau was? What would you think, son, anxious after his father's blessing, teenager, 20s? He was 77.
Oh, wow.
77, Isaac was 137. And Isaac actually lived for another 43 years after this. I thought he was on his deathbed. But he continued to live on for a lot longer. 77. So we continue in the story. We'll pick it up in verse 18. He went to his father, said, "My father." Yes, my son. Who is it? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing. Isaac asked his son, how did you find it so quickly, my son? Lord, your God gave me success, he replied. Isaac said to Jacob, come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not. Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to bless him. Are you really my son Esau? He asked him again. And Jacob replies, I am. What is all the hubbub-doo, or whatever you want to call it, about this blessing? Why is this thing so doggone important? Well, first of all, we have to understand this was an essential part or a key part of Hebrew life at the time. How many of you need this declaration of who you are? How many people in our culture do not have an identity, do not know who they are, do not know why they're here or where they're headed? Blessing does that. Blessing bestowed by the Father on His Son both gives them identity and destiny. Something we all hunger for, something we all need, and we all need to know. And that's how we have to understand significance. In Jewish culture today, you may go over and visit a family, and the father may say, this is Joey, he's going to be a doctor, and here's Jimmy, and he's going to be a lawyer, and they're 6 or 7 years old. They've already spoken destiny and identity into their lives. They know who they're going to be as far as and how they're going to serve the Lord. So Isaac goes on and says, my son, bring me some of your game to eat so I may give you my blessing. Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought some wine, and he drank. His father Isaac said to him, come here, my son, and kiss me. So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, ah, the smell, my son, is like the smell of the field that the Lord has blessed. And then here goes the blessing. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. Quite a bit of power in those words. Do you think Isaac just made them up?
No.
No. I think you're inspired by God, who gave him the words to speak over his son. But here's the interesting thing. It starts with a tender, meaningful touch. In this case, it was a kiss. But some type of touch. What does it say in Mark chapter 10, verse 12? People were bringing little children to Jesus for him to what? Place his hands on them. There's something about placing the hands. And often when we pray with people, we place our hands on them. There's something about the touch that's important. Spoken. Did you hear it? Spoken, a message of value given to you. Well, how's that relate today? Well, it could be things like, this is what I see in you. These are your positive attributes. I can see, what you are kind, you are gracious, you are beautiful, you're, those type of things. This is how I see God made you. This is what it is great about you. The video today, and we still got a few minutes before we get to it, but I'm just going to tell you now, is done by a man named Craig Hill, who has ministry out of Littleton, Colorado, and we were involved in his ministry for many years, doing seminars. And one of the seminar things is just about blessing and the importance of blessing. And there's so many people that are lost today because they never received this in their lives. It's a word of destination. I see that you're going to become, that you're going to do, and with Isaac saying, that your brother's going to bow down to you, your mother's children are going to bow down to you, that you're going to lead nations. That The same blessing that came through Abraham, now through Isaac, and now through Jacob. Responsibility. That's us. We have that responsibility to channel God's blessings through our children, through our grandchildren. To speak identity into them, to speak destiny into them and who they're to become. Words of encouragement. When we were in this ministry, I realized, because our children, well, they were teenagers at the time, and I had never done this with them, and I took the time to do it. And it brought tears to my eyes, it brought tears to their eyes, and it was something they needed to have. I grew up I knew my mother loved me, I knew my father loved me. I grew up in a very stable, good environment. Yet my parents didn't say words like, I love you. We didn't have hugs, those type of things. And I don't know if it was part of that generation or what, but one time, when I was in the military, first place I was stationed was in England. It was 1980. And my parents came and visited. And I was a brand new lieutenant. And my mom's going like this to my dad. She goes, tell him you're proud of him. She knew the importance that those words would mean to me. And it is about inheritance, about the future, about the earth's bounty, about all the riches he's going to have and all the blessings that's going to take place. But here's where we live. And as we were talking this morning, bad means good, sick means well, everything's turned upside down. We speak negative words, but it's supposed to have positive meaning. And it's a culture just full right now of negativity. And I can't believe it's not just a coincidence when we have a culture that's turned away from God that this is what's happening to our culture. Environment where judgment and condemnation is common. And I think I told you before, in the morning, Janae and I pray together before we leave. And one of the things I always make a point of praying about is, God, guard my tongue. May I only speak words of love and affirmation and not condemnation or judgment today. Guard my tongue. Curses. I used to think curses weren't real. Well, I know they're real. I know they're real, and they can affect our health. We know about ulcers, and that comes from worry and stress, but cancer, other things can also be caused because of worry or stress over our health. And they can literally break down our immune system. Our spiritual is connected with our physical. I don't know if anybody here would disagree with this, but I believe we all have a need to be blessed. We were doing a seminar in New Mexico, and we were being trained to be leaders before we went to Taiwan so we could do seminars there. And they were broken into small groups. What happens, you get a teaching, and then you break into small groups of like 7 or 8, and then you have a facilitator in each one of those groups, and they spend time in prayer and seeking the Lord. And this one facilitator, who was a woman, came to us, and she says, I have 8 women in my group, and they all need a father's blessing. And so she was asking me to go in and bless, so each one, I went in and took time, always asked for permission to touch them, and then prayed over what I felt God was telling me that they needed to hear. And every one of them were brought to tears. They desperately needed to hear that affirmation. And it wasn't me that I was representing, God the Father. So some of us will never get the blessing from a biological father. And God intended to use the biological father for his blessing to flow through. But we can still see God the Father, who is ready to bless us.
Amen.
We have that need for affirmation, Father's acceptance and approval. Who knows Pete Rose? Not the gambler. Okay, let's go before all that. Otherwise, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. Mr. Hustle. That's what the way I want to remember him.
Charlie Hustle.
Charlie Hustle. I mean, this is him. Face first, sliding into bases. He played all out. And the day that he broke Ty Cobb's batting record, the whole stadium, thousands and thousands of fans were up cheering him. And a reporter goes over to interview him, and he said, "What do you think of all these fans?" He said, his comment was, "I think my Father is smiling down from heaven on what I just did." He was more concerned about his Father than all the adoring fans, and how his Father was hoping that his Father felt that he was blessed as a result of what his Father thought. Even though his Father had passed away, he still was striving for that blessing from his Father. Yeah, God has given the fathers an essential role, whether they want to take it up or not. He's given it to them. They influence their children, whether it's good or bad. I think we downplay in our culture how important the father's role is in a family. We have so many single parents, and fortunately sometimes grandparents can step in and play that role. Sometimes maybe an uncle or somebody else, a friend, can play that role. But they still need a man in their lives, as well as a woman. The video I'm going to show today is a little bit longer than I normally show, but I thought it was really important to watch it this morning. And again, this is presented by Craig Hill, and he's really, if you type in Father's Blessing in YouTube, his name continually comes up, because this is something in his ministry and that we were involved in with Ancient Past seminars, blessing seminars, relationship seminars, about family foundations, that he firmly believes is critical in everybody's life, that at some point they receive the Father's blessing. And he believes that that's why so many of us are wandering around lost, because we've never really gotten it. We've never really received what our identity, our destiny was in Him. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and then we're going to take a few minutes to talk about it. Do you accept the blessing? Do you accept what Jesus said about you? Impartation of blessing. So if you accept it, speak it out that you accept it.
Thank you, Father. I receive it. I receive the blessing of the Father in Jesus' name. Lord, I will not be given the spirit of fear to be bondage, but the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry.
This, I don't know, this may be new for some of you, may be different, but there was a reason why blessing was so important in the Jewish culture. Not only speaking the identity, speaking the destiny into their children's lives. The Jewish culture today still celebrates what they call Shabbat on Friday evenings. And part of the purpose of that is not only observing the Sabbath, starting at sundown on Friday evening to sundown on Saturday evening, but it's also the purpose is for the father to speak blessing over his children. And that's what part of that whole celebration is about, is a time of blessing for the children.
We're going to do that one time. We're going to have a Friday night Shabbat. I just don't know when.
And so, I don't know about you, I can only speak for me, but I know I craved my Father's acceptance. I craved my Father's blessing
I was one of 4 children, the youngest, had 2 brothers and a sister. And I was the only one out of all the children that just always hung out with my father on Saturdays. I just really revered him, a lot of respect for him, wanted his admiration. You know, when he showed up to my ball games, I always felt like I was playing for him. You know, he was really important in my life. And I know for most of us, there's that inner desire that we need to know that we've been accepted by our Father or loved by our Father. And for some of us that have missed out on that, and our Father's gone now, or we don't have a relationship with our Father anymore, that we can seek through God the Father, and that's the time that you can do on your own as well, and just quietly seeking God and asking Him, how does He see you? How does He view you? Okay, you know, sometimes, you know, we have a lot of blemishes. We have a lot of, you know, warts, and we've got a lot of thorns and everything else, and we think that's who we are sometimes. That's not the way God sees us. And sometimes we need that revelation from God to view ourselves differently. To know that we're loved by God, know that we're accepted by God just the way we are. And that's the unconditional love. Let us pray. Lord, we're just so thankful this morning for the scripture and your word. Lord, help us to embrace blessing. And whether we have children that maybe that we need to speak blessing over them, or we never received it from our own Father, that we can seek you and you will show us how you see us. And Lord, how much you love us, how important we are to you, how you created us unique and different, and that you have purpose for our lives, that there's no reason that we need to wander around aimlessly thinking that we have no purpose or reason to be here. Because God, you have purpose for us, you have destiny and reason for us, and you have identity for us. And that the fact that we are here is we know that we have been chosen by you, and that you want a special relationship with us. And so for that, Lord, we are thankful. And we just praise you in Jesus' name.